Hi guys, welcome back to another GTF video review. Today we're taking a look at the InWin MS04-01 mini server chassis. Now, this is probably going to be more inclined to be used as a NAS device from most people, because you can see it's got the 4 hot swap drives in the front. It is classed as the a mini server chassis, so you can sort of use it for anything you like, but I get the idea it'll be used as a NAS device. Now, this has really interested me. I've had this for a little while now. I've been playing around with it, and I'm pretty much going to say InWin have nailed this on the head as a functionality, what you can do with this little case. There's not many companies out there that give you the option to sort of build your own NAS device from sort of the ground up. So this has the complete room for a mini ITX motherboard. It's got the room for your 4 hard drives in the front. You can have 3.5 or SSDs. It's got an extra SSD support inside. It even came with an 80 plus gold, I think it's a 300 and something watt power supply on the side. It's got sort of extra features like the lockable hard drive cages. It's got a lockable door, so instead of just not being able to lock the individual hard drives, you can lock the door. So we'll go into all this a little bit more detail, and we'll sort of see what options you do get with this case. First off, we'll start with the packaging. You do get this pretty bare sort of basic brown box. Now, this isn't really on InWin's retail side of things. It's not like their desktop consumer cases. I'm not even sure if this is widely sort of available to the public. My urge would be them to try and push more devices like these, because I've been dealing a lot with the community for quite a few years now, and these things are sort of, a lot of people request items like these. I think there's a lot of people pushing more to your home server sort of NAS devices rather than having your larger cases. So to have these ready available for people to pick up. Now, when I found out about the price, was I think it's $199 is the starting price. I was actually pretty impressed with that, because you do get the options of the hot swap drives, you do get the backplane and the power supply included. So for $199, I was really impressed with that. I actually thought it was going to be a bit more. Right, so putting the packaging aside, one thing that InWin's really good at in all their range of cases are the actual items you get, as in the screws, and not just throwing them all in a packet, but labeling each one, so you can clearly see they label what each one's for, the actual part number of each one, and you can see you do get plenty of those there. So that's for your sort of your hard drives, your SSDs and whatnot. Now you also do get a little your little key, so that's to unlock each individual hard drive cage on the front. Alright, so moving on to the unit itself. Now, it is relatively small. You're not going to be putting an all-in-one water cooler, some massive air cooler in this. Now, it's only designed for an ITX motherboard, which is fair enough. It's not really designed to be a sort of customized case. It sort of has one sort of purpose, and that is to store 4 hard drives and it be used as a mini NAS device. Alright, so taking out the 2 screws on the back, which simply, these are quite large thumb screws to hold it in. Now you do also get a 120mm fan on the back. I really do prefer this. A lot of custom NAS devices you buy on the market, where you're all-in-one units, they have quite a few little fans, and they don't really have the airflow that this case provides for your 4 hard drives. Now, sliding the top off, you just slide it towards the back, and then you just lift it up, and then it just comes off like that. And that's just a painted black aluminium there, and it's got, actually, now that'll be steel, black steel, and you've got ventilation on one side and then ventilation on the other side. Okay, so moving on to the unit itself, you do have a little packet for anti-moisture, which is good. And there we have the unit itself, just so you can really see how small it just actually is. Now, this is a motherboard I'm putting in. Now, this is certainly overkill. It's the only ITX board I had. Probably not going to be putting a $300 so motherboard in a NAS chassis, but that's sort of just what I had, so just for fitting purposes. As you can see, once you get that in, there's really not much room for your air cooling, so you're pretty much going to be stuck to just sort of any server grade air cooler or your standard Intel or AMD stock cooler. All right, so moving on to some of the more unique features that I really liked. So instead of just giving you a case and leaving it at that, they've given you quite a few removable options. Some things like the removable motherboard tray. So you've got the 2 screws dipped down the bottom. You simply undo each screw, push down the little latch, and then you can slide it out. And I really like that, because you can install the motherboard, the cooler, get that sorted, stick the memory in, and then just slide it straight back in. So that's nice that they've done that. Also, moving on to onto the power supply that's on this side. So this is a standard Flex ATX power supply. These are more sort of your server storage grade sort of power supplies. You can't really get these off the shelves at most computer shops, but it is the standard size, so you can actually order these different ones on the InWin website or more sort of storage or server shops. These are probably standard on their stock list, so it is pretty sweet. And this is actually 80 plus gold, so I was really happy with that. So running this day 24/7, it's going to sort of save a little bit on power as to if they threw in a cheap sort of a bronze rated power supply. And then that's got enough connectors. It's got actually a 8-pin EPS, it's got a few SATA and Molex, and then it's got your 24-pin, and you only need 2 Molex to power the SAS backplane or the SATA backplane that it comes with. Alright, so moving on to the which I just mentioned, the SATA backplane. Now this can come in a few different types. Mine came pre-installed with the SATA backplane, so you can see how it's got the 1, 2, 3, 4 SATA. So your drives just slide in, and then you plug the 4 SATA in, and then you power it by 2 Molex. Now for some reason my box, the case box also came with a mini SAS backplane. So this only has one output, which goes to a RAID card that has the same end on it, which is a mini SAS. So this will, each mini SAS connector does 4 drives. So this is an 8-port RAID card with 2 of the mini SAS adapters on it. So it's pretty sweet that you can get this option. Bear in mind, I'm pretty sure that when you buy the chassis, you're not going to get both. I think mine may have been an X-Demo unit, and they've just had both in there. So you can get that one off the website, which is pretty sweet, because it does have a half height PCI slot. So if you want to run, say, a RAID card which is half height, most RAID cards have the option to go half height, or if you want to run this as sort of a beefy home theater system, you could find a half height video card and throw in there as well. So that's pretty nifty as well. And then taking off this this backplane, you just got the 2 screws there, and then you just sort of slide it up and out, and then that unit can be swapped with the different one if you want, and then you can slide that back in. So another feature I like with that is you can see the stock one I've got with this SATA one. It seems to have these switches on there that you can set the threshold for. Once your hard drives get to a certain temperature, you can let it alarm. As you can see, it's got a onboard speaker there. So that's a pretty nifty a little feature there as well, I think. So moving around a bit more on the internals, it has a little spot here. It actually sort of, I missed it the first time. It's got a spot to install a SSD, because bear in mind, you don't want to have your operating system on one of the drives in the front. It'd be really neat to have it on a separate drive. So what you do is you have your SSD. It actually just slots in like that. It's got 2 little points where it sticks on, and then at the top you just put 2 screws on. So that's it. So that could be your OS. You could put like FreeNAS or something on an SSD, and you could have that separate to the drives in the front. Moving on to the front. Now they have made the front completely removable. I'm not sure why, you probably don't need to, but I guess they've done this for cleaning this out. They do have a filter on the front, but I guess you could just take this out, hose it for a bit, let it dry, and then you're good to go. You can just throw it back on. So I guess that does come in handy. Moving along the top, you got your 2 USB 3. I think that's really good for copying data on and off. It's got a nice high-speed connection there. You've got your slimline optical disk drive, so that's, I think, is really important, and that's a plus to most, which most NAS boxes don't get, which you come pre-made. So if you want to have something like a Blu-ray burner or a Blu-ray drive for watching movies, it's got that option there as well. And then you've just got your power LED, which is your switch as well, and then your reset as well down there. So that's pretty nifty. They've got those, and that actually lights up, as you can see. Alright, so moving down to the door, I really do like how elegant they've done this. They really just haven't given you a mesh design. They've given this nice sort of way. Oh, I don't even know what to say. That it's kind of like a diamond pattern. It's really nice. And then this door swings open. It's a 2-part hinge, so kind of the same as a car door. Goes once and then twice. It just stops it from closing all the way again, which is pretty neat. Alright, so unlocking each hard drive caddy, you just simply push down the little bluey purple little lever, and then they just flick out like that. And before I take those out, you can see where you've got the little holes for the lock, and you can just insert the key there, and then you can turn it each way to lock it. So you can see how simple that is. And when we're talking about locks, we've also got this yellow lock here, which you can see. So once you're on the inside, you can flick this up to lock the actual door, and you can flick it down to unlock it. So instead of locking each individual drive, you can actually lock the whole door. And there's also a 3rd lock where it's got your standard, it should have your standard Kensington lock on here as well, which you can install if you don't want anyone getting into the whole sort of chassis as well. So that's pretty nifty. Right, so taking out the hard drive caddies, as I said, you just push them down. So you can see there's plenty of airflow, which I really like. That 120 mm fan will have no worries pulling air through the front of the case. And then you just simply slide the cages out like that. So they're relatively nice cages, they don't feel really cheap. Now hard drive support for these cages is you can fit one standard 3.5-inch mechanical drive, or you can fit one standard 2.5-inch SSD. And as you can see, they just simply go on the caddy respectively, so you can fit the 3.5-inch or a 2.5-inch. So if you want to go at maximum storage, you could probably fit a couple of 4Ts in here, or if you want speed, you can put a few SSDs in. So that's nice, they've given you the option for both. And then probably the last thing on the front, which we'll cover, is just down the bottom. They've added some bonus features. I guess if you do get a mini ITX server grade board, you've got things like your LAN LEDs if you're running redundant dual NICs on the back, an extra hard drive LED, an ID, and a fail LED. So most sort of server grade boards come with those options to plug in if you got the jumpers on the board. So it is nice that they've actually added those on as well. So one last thing I'll do before we actually throw a system in this is we'll just have a look at the feet. Now I guess this is pretty important in a case like this. Most cases it's not too bad, but having 4 hard drives in such a small environment and so close to sort of the ground or on a desk, you're probably going to want like some nice decent feet. So these ones are really nice. They're a nice squishy rubber. They're not too soft, and they're not those really hard cheap rubber that pretty much don't do anything at all. So it is nice that they've thought of that as well. Alright, so I built my system up here. Now this literally took me about 20 minutes to do this. It was so quick. Having that slide out motherboard tray made it so much easier. I was able to slide the motherboard tray out. I was able to fit the CPU, the cooler, even this memory. Now this Invextra rated memory is probably the highest memory I've ever seen, and that went in no worries at all. I was even able to reach the like front panel connectors, even the fan header for the rear fan. I was able to get that on all while the motherboard was out, and then I could just slide it back in. All I had to do was plug in your power supply ATX 24 pin, your 8 pin, and then your USB 3 header on the motherboard, and then I just plugged in the SATA hard drive connections and the 2 power. So bear in mind that you only need 2 power Molex to run the 4 drives through the backplane, and then the power supply also comes with two extra SATA power as well. So I've got 1 SATA power here. You can see the SSD on the side, and also I did forget some things I want to cover now, that you can fit another SSD up the top. So I think that's good. If you're not using a slimline optical drive, you can fit a second SSD as well as the one on the side, and it's good that they've given you enough SATA to power those 2 at once. And I also missed the when I mentioned the lock for the chassis cover, it actually swings out, because I was actually trying to find where it was, but it actually swings out on a rivet, so you don't always have it sticking out, because I never liked cases that have the lock sort of sticking out. That always sort of gets in the way and bumps areas. So with my hard drive config, it's really nice how you can see them coming through the LEDs through the front. They're not sort of blinding bright, so if you do have it in a TV room, you're not going to be distracted by the lights. You can just see them through the front cover. But I went for sort of a different solution. As an example, I went with the first 2 drivers, say like a RAID 0 with 2 1 terabyte blacks, and then I went with the third option as a 4 terabyte black, and then I left the 4th one empty. So that's just an idea. I'd probably recommend something like WD Reds for a solution like this. They're more designed for 24/7. The WD Blacks are probably going to be a little bit too much powerful. The performance won't be used, and they'll use a little bit more power, but they're the ones I had on hand. And then you can see the cable management on the side and the other side. It's not too bad, but you are talking about like a little storage chassis. You don't really need to work on it too much at all. So it did go in there, no worries at all, and I didn't have the need to put in a card at all. But as I said before, you could put in a low profile GPU or a RAID card for some extra speeds. But yeah, that was my setup there. So really impressed with this case. I really think Inwin should push these more to more retailers, especially in Australia. I think a lot of people will be interested in these. When I posted the photos up, I think last week when I had this, the first lot of photos, I had a few messages, people asking me, oh, where can you get these, where are these available? But it's really hard to get these sort of cases from Inwin. They sort of specialize more in just their sort of consumer grade cases. But yeah, really good if they could start pushing these out and sort of have a few different options as well, maybe some larger and smaller ones. But if you are interested in one one of these, we do have a competition we just launched earlier tonight. We have an Easter competition because it is Easter weekend at the moment, where you can actually win one of these. It's not this one. We have a brand new one coming, still in the packaging, but yeah, that's going to run till I think the 19th of April. So if you are in Australia, it's Australia only. Head to the GGF Facebook page, which is ggf.landparty.party after the facebook.com, and yeah, that's up there. Just have to find the post. I pinned it to the top. Just tell us why you need one of these and what's your best feature. But yeah, overall great little chassis, and I hope to see more sort of things like this come from Inwin. But I just want to thank you for watching, and thanks for Inwin for sending out this great little unit.